This is Getting Past Subtitles. My name is Sean Peel.
And I'm DK Lee.
Welcome to the last week. This is it. This is it for our comedy series. And we're ending off with a good one. This is, I'm guessing this is quite a classic. This is actually my first time seeing it. We are watching a Stephen Chow movie. Very infamous Hong Kong director in the early 2000s. And probably his first, I would say, I'm assuming Western hit, right? And that is Shaolin Soccer. This was released in 2001. And this was the Stephen Chow film before Kung Fu Hustle. And that was definitely that was a skyrocket film for him for sure. And that's where I know him from. That's the one that I seen. But outside of Kung Fu Hustle, I'd never seen any other of his films. And he doesn't have a huge list from what I've seen, but he's got quite a few. But I've always wanted to kind of go and see some other movies, so I really like the opportunity. Maybe we'll do a series on him. He's definitely one to do a retrospective one day. Maybe. He's got to get in line.
Yeah, we have a lot.
He's got to get in line.
Lined up.
Idea line. But so last week we watched My Love Story, which was very kind of gimmicky anime adaptation.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
My first watch, and I enjoyed it.
If
I watch it again, we'll see what happens. It's not something that I would watch again, to be honest.
Yeah, no.
But watching it once, I don't think it was that bad.
Yeah, that was the conclusion that we came with last episode too. It's like a one-hit wonder, and then you've had your fun. But this one, it's a little bit of a different story. You could definitely return to this movie and appreciate a lot of things. Now, some things I don't know if they age very well, particularly early 2000s CGI, but that's also part of the magic.
Yeah, you know what? Given the circumstances of the times and everything, it's still watchable.
Yeah.
And I think, given the craziness of the movie as well, I think it's fine.
Yeah. It fits it fits the tone and
I don't think if it was going for something very serious and they had that kind of CGI, I'd be like, stop.
Pump the brakes.
But because it's already so crazy, it's why not add another layer?
You you embrace the wild,
the wackiness
of it. It's a very spoofy comedy, So there's the passion, the fire that goes behind them. It's
great.
It's,
it's great.
It just fits,
the crazy when he's carving the
the sign. It's Shaolin forever.
and then all the business people start doing the choreography, and then they turn into the real people.
That's I kind of had here's the thing, while I was watching this movie, CGI was a big part of the movie, and it is early 2000s. So today, I mean, we've come really far. So you just see the crap that it is back then. But like I said, for its time, it's ooh, wow, not even they knew how shit it was. But and Stephen Chow is definitely someone that takes advantage of CGIs in his movie. So it's passable to a degree. But I kept asking myself when is it necessary? What could they have chosen not to use CGI and it would have been fine versus when they actually used it there for purpose of using it, and I feel that was one of the shots where okay, I get the flying, that's cool, but then it got me when they busted through the gates and then there's 30 CGI Shaolin statue people they're completely faceless, and then they transition to they're the businessmen
people, yeah.
You just used real models or something
They might have though, they might have used real people, and then
I'm sure it was them, and then it was CGI keyed on them or something. But I feel you should have just done it practically, and then you know
just
what I mean?
real people.
Yeah.
Why do that from the beginning? Right?
Just make the cool shout. You had the fake set there already, right? You had the Tory gate.
Yeah.
You just skimped out on the people. You know what I mean?
Or you went even more further, right? If you already had the people, but who knows how they did it exactly? But.
Exactly. You had the choreographer. There was real people that did this stuff.
The
you know what I mean?
Stuff,
But hey, it is what it is. It's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, there are other aspects where it's like, okay, like that's kind of cool. Like all like the floaty like Shaolin like kung fu ness of it, like floating and blah blah. Like that's all cool. That's fine.
I mean, given like kung fu movies and Chinese kung fu movies,
Yeah.
like their choreography obviously is just gonna be great, right? They're just
that's what they do.
They just have crazy choreography. But I think what I noticed from this movie in particular, and I think a lot of Stephen Chow's movies as well, is the camera movement, like the use of the camera in showing the choreography or in showing the action, as well as like the cutting and how he cuts and the way that he uses the cut to make a moment flow better, or like we talked about even in like Parasite, where there's like a juxtaposition of like one thing in one scene and then almost like the same thing in another scene, and they use that to connect the scenes and they cut it at that same moment.
Right.
I'll give you an example. Like for example, when Hung, the rich businessman who betrayed Golden Leg, Fung, right? When he is younger and he's like walking, he's like smiling and he's like walking away in the stadium, and then it transitions into the older version of him.
Right.
It's like the perfect, like the actors look like they're like so good, like it matches so perfectly. The actors for one, but just like transitions like that. Or there's another transition where I think somebody's getting like it's like in the bathroom once. I forget what his name, Ironhead, I think. He was like cleaning the bathroom and after that, like he like, I think he like spreads water, and then it cuts to another moment where it's like spreading water, and then they go to another moment, stuff like that.
Yeah, I noticed too. I mean, the movie is like flows together really well. Like I said, like shot for shot, like it's pretty concise and it works pretty seamlessly. But yeah, I mean, like you said, even just seeing a scene, it really works as well as like as drastic as this movie kind of is. Yeah. Like I'm thinking of the scene too where, like we come back to Feng. Well, we just leave like the scene where, him and Sing and Ironhead perform the Shaolin song at his bar. Oh, yeah. Like they're forced to perform, and then they basically get beat up by those guys in the crowd, and then it cuts to the next scene where like Feng is like peeing on the wall. And then he goes back to the can that got kicked earlier, and he finds out like it lodged into the wall. And then when it breaks down, it's like basically just puts into the new scene where Sing beats up the gang members again, but like with the soccer ball, and that's kind of like, oh, you can use soccer to blah blah. But it like like it's part of the scene, but it kind of like flows because it is kind of a separate scene in a way. You know what I mean? So that just kind of fits. As weird and like unlikely as like Sing happens to be on the other side of that wall. Yeah. Like at that time, but it works in like getting from point A to point B in that sense, So yeah, I mean, so for me, being my first time watching it, it's a good movie. It's very Stephen Chow. Like out of knowing Kung Fu Hustle and like watching that, this movie is definitely in the same vein as that, like stylistically, kind of like tonally. I mean, he's known like trademark to be that like a spoofy comedy director, and he also plays like stars in a lot of like his earlier work. I think in his later work he kind of stopped doing that. But it is like he has such an identity with his movies, and it's like when I watched this, it felt very like kind of a continuation. Like, oh yeah, I see why like this is definitely his film in that sense. Yeah. And it kind of threw me back because like Kung Fu Hustle for me in particular was probably my first exposure into Hong Kong cinema, or just like Chinese movies in general and like martial arts. Like in the same way that you think in the 1980s and like 70s and 80s where martial arts films really blew up in Kung Fu films, and like Jackie Chan and like Bruce Lee, like these were all icons, and movies like The Five Venoms and like the 36 Chamber of Shaolin, like all these movies and icons blew up in that generation. But I feel like for me, in like the early 2000s, Stephen Chow was one of those people. But having not seen anything else, coming back to this was like kind of took me back. Like, oh yeah, like very kind of like nostalgic and like kind of put me back. Like this was early 2000s. This was like gave me that kind of like first exposure kind of feeling that came along with it. I don't know about for you. When did you kind of first see this?
I saw it a while back. I think I saw it in like maybe mid 2000s.
Sure.
I don't remember exactly what the reason why I watched it was. I think I was at my friend's place and they were watching.
The bootleg DVD was sitting around somewhere.
Yeah, we were probably watching the DVD version. I do remember actually when I watched Kung Fu Hustle. It was when it was my friend's birthday, and we watched it during his birthday. I don't know why we picked that movie, but we did
Forget about
that.
your birthday. I'm engrossed in this movie.
Yeah, and that was actually very interesting to watch for a birthday for like when we were like really young, dude. We were young and we were watching that movie, so it was kind of it was a interesting choice to say the least.
You know, for me, it's funny because like I watched it when I was young too, like 9 or 10 maybe. But like same thing for my younger brothers who were even younger than me. We would watch that movie a lot because like we owned it on disc. But like it was one of the few, I guess, like mature kind of action films that like my parents would let us watch. And like my father at the time, like he also kind of like, you know, grew up with martial arts films, and that was one of the movies that he really liked and like we were kind of exposed to. But yeah, just like being so young to watch that.
Yeah, it's not the most like kid friendly movie.
Yeah, it is kind of
right?
raunchy. Like
so it was interesting. But going from there, I think for Shaolin Soccer, it was just like a movie that like I think we just wanted to watch like a funny comedy kind of thing. And like, you know, Shaolin Soccer sounded like sounded like something that would be like right up our alley to watch, you know. So I think that's how I first watched it. But going back to what you said about like 2000s and when you started watching, like when you got into more of the Chinese movies and like kung fu movies, for me actually it's actually gonna be probably our next series where I got my first like introduction into like the Chinese kung fu like movie world.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that later.
More
right?
to come. More to come. Yeah.
But for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and like I mean, there's a big difference between the two because like then like those are more focused and I guess you could say more grounded like kung fu. Like they definitely put out more stunt heavy and more action and more just showing off the martial art versus here it's more comedy based, you know, and just kung fu is a sort of personality of the movie.
And I think that's why it garnered so much international attention as well.
Yeah.
It's like it's not just about like martial arts where if it is just about martial arts, sometimes it can feel a little too
like too niche a bit.
Yeah, too niche or like too like part of China, like that kind of like kung fu.
Yeah.
When you think about kung fu, it just feels like
Like
it's so
foreign.
Chinese, right?
Yeah.
But I think when you think about it as like a almost slapstick comedy, using it as like slapstick comedy, it kind of gives it a new like perspective.
Yeah.
Into like obviously it's still kung fu and still action, but just like how Jackie Chan kind of revolutionized that like type of like kung fu, but also action, but comedy and all of that. Yeah. This also kind of does that, but in a more broader sense.
Sure.
Where it's like it's heavily more comedic, I think, in like almost everything that they do, and it's a lot. There's a lot of like really like choreographed, almost like you know that moment when Sing goes to the sweet bun place and then they all like burst into like song and dance like that choreography stuff like that's very like you know and like stuff like that I think really lends itself to a more broader audience.
Yeah, like I mean the focus is like I said it's less on the martial arts and less on the kung fu aspect, and Stephen Chow really just focuses more on like just the actual filmmaking and like the movie itself. Like I said, it's more of a slapstick comedy than it is an action movie than anything. Like I said, it's just a personality of it.
Yeah.
Like here's like it's an aspect of the movie, but what you're watching, it feels more like I mean Hollywood for lack of a better term, or like more of a blockbuster. It's just the more focus is like comedy and these quirky characters and just a story of like this underdog team essentially.
Yeah.
And like I said, like kung fu is just kind of like a sub aspect of that. So versus like you know everybody else the focus is on the opposite side of the spectrum. So it's easier for people to watch, and it makes sense that it skyrocketed. And so when we talk about Kung Fu Hustle, this will be an interesting discussion too, because it kind of like reverts a little bit like Kung Fu is definitely the main aspect of it. But like I said, he does so well with like the comedy and kind of like the story that it still hit wonders and even bigger than Shaolin Soccer after the fact, So that'll be an interesting topic. But a little bit about this movie. So, like I said, it came out 2001. This was before Kung Fu Hustle. His how this kind of came about, his inspiration was actually from an anime called Captain Tsubasa, which is a like a soccer themed anime, and apparently it was like really popular. I mean, in Japan at the time, and then when it made waves overseas as well, like in China, it was very popular at the time. And Stephen Chow has always been a martial arts. He's like a Bruce Lee fanatic. So he's always been a lover of martial arts and Kung Fu, and modeled a lot after Bruce Lee. And so he always wanted to kind of tell a story of using Kung Fu and like something else. And so after Captain Tsubasa, he kind of is like, oh, soccer feels like a right fit for that. And then, he just kind of like launched this story in sort of that vein, just kind of having like this quirky idea of like mixing Shaolin Kung Fu with soccer. You know what I mean? And it works really well, like as kind of weird as it is. So when it released in Hong Kong, it became a massive hit. It became like the highest grossing movie at the time. And it wasn't until Kung Fu Hustle that it dethroned that. So he was at the top of the leaderboard for a while. And then it made huge waves here overseas as well in the US. And I think like Miramax purchased the rights to it. And they did a theater run as well as a DVD run here in the States. So he definitely got a lot of exposure through Shaolin Kung Fu or Shaolin Soccer first. But it's your week. Quick take. What exactly did we see?
Let's see.
Dun dun dun.
I think mine will be under 2 minutes.
Under 2 minutes.
Ready?
Ooh.
So Singh is a Shaolin master who wants to promote the benefits of Shaolin Kung Fu to society. One day, he meets Golden Leg Feng, who was a great soccer player back in the day, but he got scammed by his best friend and former teammate Hung, who is now a rich businessman. And so Singh and Feng, they meet one day and they come to terms to form a soccer team, and they start enlisting the Shaolin brothers, his Shaolin brothers, for the team. And once they get a team together, they enter the tournament held by Hung, and eventually they overcome Team Evil, which is Hung's team, and they basically win the tournament. And Singh is finally able to promote Shaolin all over the world, and he even goes off to be in a bowling championship, win bowling championship.
We guess.
And that's basically the story. There's also like other characters such as like Mui, who is the girl who falls in love with Singh, and she is riddled with acne and all that, and she's not really confident in herself, but Singh basically kind of helps her to gain her own confidence, and later on she becomes pivotal in the tournament when she comes to save the day, basically as the goalkeeper, and she and Singh basically using their kung fu together is able to make the last goal.
Yeah. Oh, Mui.
What an interesting character.
What an interesting character. Interesting, like, relationship.
Yeah.
That is. But before we get into that, this movie is definitely Stephen Chow definitely puts a lot of himself in his movies, but like Shaolin Soccer feels a lot like himself in the way, like, after doing some research. Like I said, he's a big Bruce Lee fan, right? There's like a literal Bruce Lee copy in the movie, who is the original goalkeeper. But also just like, the story and like the structure is it's a pretty simple script, just like this underdog character who loves Shaolin Kung Fu, wants to like give it some exposure, but doesn't know how. Then he meets like the soccer coach who's like, I can make you into a star. and you can use this to promote it. And then he gathers all his buddies, the other Shaolin masters,
monks,
and then they go off to kind of win a tournament, and then he's like, he accomplishes his goal. But like, the story is simple. Like, literally, the enemy is called Team Evil. like
when they fly, there's a sign of like the dragon, the evil looking like monster.
Yeah, there's like
the
dark
demon,
aura around them.
Aura. And I love how they used American drug.
Oh my god, bro! They were like cheating. They were drugging to win.
They're like using steroids or whatever. It's called American drug, and it's just like purple fluid that they inject.
Yeah. It's so funny. Like they use that as the excuse, but then there's that little scene beforehand where they're like, I don't know, they're being like constructed underwater. They're like being tested. Like, I thought they were androids or something. It's like superhuman training. Blah blah blah. Yeah, it's so it's so wacky.
Yeah.
Those American drugs worked so well. but like, it definitely feels a lot of him. But even like, it's such a parallel. Like, even like, if you think about it, right? Because he loves martial arts, and wants to use that side of him and personality in his stories and in his films. But like, he literally plays Sing, but you can draw such a parallel with like Sing as this filmmaker who wants to like get this movie off the ground, and like, it's like just the straight journey of like, the aspiring filmmaker, and it like does this big project that becomes a success. Like, they're very like parallel stories, just done through like, through soccer and through that. Like, it feels very like 1-to-1 and kind of easy to do. I was like, wow, it's like, when I watched it, I was like, this feels such like an injected movie in himself, which can be a good thing. Like, obviously it works to his advantage here in that sense. But what was your kind of opinion of the movie as a whole, especially returning back to it?
I think it aged definitely. it definitely aged. And looking back on it, you can see a lot of its like, its flaws.
Sure.
But overall, I think that it's still a fun movie to watch, and I think there are moments in the film that are still memorable and are still like funny.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of movie where it's like the funny is just like, cause it's just so crazy. Right?
Yeah,
it's like
just so dumb.
It's just so dumb that like you laugh. But I think I still enjoyed it overall. But there are definitely like, I think, pain points in the movie as well, where it feels kind of like, why is that in there? Like,
sure.
Or it feels very like, I don't know. Some of the jokes kind of fall flat for me.
Okay.
But a lot of the jokes are okay.
Yeah. They're not amazing.
Yeah.
Some are like funny.
It's not like, I think generally, I think like the type of comedy that's in this film in particular is not necessarily like my kind of comedy.
Okay.
But some of it is, but like I think generally it's not. So like I never like laughed out loud crazy, but overall I think the general sentiment of it was good. And I think what I like the most about it actually is the choreography of it and the camera work in this movie.
Yeah.
So
you're a tough crowd to please.
I mean, it's just, your tastes change over time. And
we're not kids. We don't laugh at that silly stuff anymore.
No,
Movie's bald head is not that funny.
No, that was funny. No. What I liked about that one was when he's like, "Go, you have to go home." Like,
yeah, I know. He was like E.T. And he's like, "No, I want to help." And he's like, "Call home. You don't belong on Earth."
Like, I love that part.
I love
that was good.
Yeah.
I didn't laugh as much in the parts where it's like overly just like spoofs, like they like, like the guy who's like getting like hit by the soccer ball like 50 times, like that's not that funny for me,
Yeah.
But like moments like that where it's like kind of subtle, but kind of like they're just playing it straight.
Exactly. That's me
what
too.
I like about like the comedy in this movie.
The slapstick that they're reaching isn't that funny.
Yeah.
But like the subtlety, like the moments that are kind of subtle.
Yeah, those are like hilarious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I think that's my point.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. And like the way that he writes dialogue and like through comedy, also like really fits and like works really well. Like that, you know, like when he's like one character's trying to play it straight and the other one's not really playing it straight, but like they kind of are. Like they're in the scene, but what they're saying is not being straight at all.
Like another moment that I found was like really funny was like when Sing and Feng first meet, right? And he's basically a janitor. Like he picks up garbage on the street, and he's like explaining about Shaolin Kung-Fu, and he's talking about like, oh, if this woman knew Shaolin Kung-Fu, then she would not slip on the banana. But what I found so funny about that scene is like, he literally knows that she's gonna slip and fall, but he doesn't do anything to help her.
He's like, look at that woman. Wait. It's like dramatic, like fall. And he's like, look, you see,
if she knew Kung Fu,
she wouldn't have slipped on that banana.
And I was like, you knew exactly what was gonna happen. You just let her happen, like
he staged the banana there. That's what happened.
Yeah,
you know,
and little things like that I think were like hilarious. But like things like when they're like doing the choreographed like dance and stuff. Not that funny.
No,
me, you know,
that was the moment when I was like, oh yeah, I'm in the 2000s. Like I can't nothing speaks 2000s than having a dance sequence in your movie.
The funny part in that scene was the guy who like comes up and like starts like talking to them.
Oh yeah, and he's like, no, he can see. He's like, I have a passion for singing. He's like, when I sing, it makes me feel like passionate inside.
Yeah,
and like there's a burning in his eyes, and he starts singing, and
then everyone's like, eyes starts like going into passion mode.
Like when they sing and dance, it's like, okay, we're done.
Like, we're done. By then, you're like, okay,
you killed the moment.
Yeah,
but him singing is definitely the funniest shit. He's like the nobody knows cameo in Stephen Chow's movie, because I remember him from Kung Fu Hustle when he was like the skinny guy who's like always washing the time. You remember? And he kept getting hit by like the pot from the woman downstairs.
Yeah.
Oh man. So when I saw him, I was like, oh my god, there's that guy. The fact that his like shirt isn't buttoned all the way down.
I don't know. He has such a like weird like body like shape. You know what I mean?
He does.
Like the proportions look so funky for some reason.
It's like that, and like his like natural deadpan expression. And then when he sings, he like breaks it all, but he still like has that weird like deadpanness of it. Oh my god! Oh, the like the quick shot of Sing and Mui where they're like when he starts singing and they're like, what the fuck? That's funny. Also that one guy when he beats up the gang members with a soccer ball and the guy starts doing praying mantis. And when he does that, like has like the skinniest and like weirdest proportion body. That was funny. He was like, what style? He's like, was that praying mantis style? He was like, yeah. He was like, give me your change. Just like robs him in front of him.
Yeah.
Are you robbing me? I am. He starts crying. Like all that stuff is so dumb, but it's funny. I have to agree with you. Yeah. What do you think? Okay, talking about Sing in like movies, relationship, and like their characters. What did you think of all that?
I actually thought it was. I mean, it's not like very developed, right?
Sure.
Because a lot of times Sing is kind of doing his own thing, and Mui's kind of, I don't even know where she is, like what she's doing. But I thought the dynamic was kind of interesting.
Agreed.
Like how she is the one that likes him.
Agreed. Yeah.
And then later on, basically he's like, "Oh wait, we're just friends.
Wait a minute.
Chill." Usually it's the other way around, right?
Yeah,
Where it's like the girl who's like, and the girl's like, "Oh no, we're just friends," right? But here it's kind of like flipped.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of didn't understand like Mui's like full motivation, like near the end, like where she comes back. But like she like disappears and then she comes back all of a sudden. Like I mean,
right.
I obviously understand it's for the payoff, but it's kind of like,
and then she shaves her head.
Yeah, and she, well, that's funny. I guess that's why they did it. Right. But it's like,
but for what reason?
Yeah. So overall, I did enjoy the interactions, but I just felt like it was kind of nowhere, neither here or there. So
yeah, 100% agree. Like the idea is great. Like I said, it feels different in the fact that, you know, she chases after him, question mark, and then he rejects her. And then like, you know, they end up or he ends up basically friend zoning her, and then she gets let down. But like I said, by the end, it's like it's there for the payoff, but to what cost? And kind of like
it's weird because like in the beginning, like Sing keeps on saying like, "Oh, you're such a beautiful girl, like beautiful, you're beautiful," and later on he's like, "Oh wait, no, I mean we're just friends."
I'm not hitting on you, yeah. Which like I mean, for me, it's not too bad. Like I can see he can play it off that way, and like that he rejects her was fine. But like after that, like there's really nothing else.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the problem because like she runs away, and then he's like, I'm trying to find her, and then like she's gone, and then she just comes back at the end.
And then he didn't really do anything either to like find her or anything. He's just like, oh wait, I got to go through the tournament now. And it's like
he just made a pit stop for her and was like, I guess she's gone.
Peace.
Adios.
Yeah. So.
And apparently you can taste her tears in the steam in the sweet buns.
That's nasty, dude. Oh my god. That whole scene I was cringing because I was like, oh dude, that's so nasty. He like tastes it too. Like he like puts water.
He tries to clean it off because it's on the ground. That's why it tastes gross. This shit was on the floor all day.
Yeah.
How like the owner is like, I'm not gonna tell you anything.
Oh, dude, I hated the owner. Oh my goodness. So annoying.
Oh man. I thought it was funny when that whole scene like was weird when he rejects her, like before that, like that whole celebratory dinner thing when she comes back in like crazy makeup, like just the way that whole scene flowed, because it was like,
yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, it was like, oh, you look great, like he's trying to be nice or whatever, and then everybody starts ranking on her like super hard, and then it's just like on a dime.
Joke.
Yeah, it's a joke, and then she's like actually took it personally. It's like, ah, then she's hurt. And then like the owner comes out and it's like, I don't know, being a rebellion.
Yeah.
And then they celebrate again. And then he rejects her and it goes back. Like it's just like so up and down in like 10 minutes and like all in the same sequence at that.
Yeah.
But it definitely feels like different sequences. Just like
there's no breathing room at all.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It kind of feels like
it's like you needed a space. Everything that happened there needed to be spaced out, but you just like shoved it together.
Yeah, it feels rushed. Like I said, it feels like there wasn't enough of that relationship thing going on.
Mm. So, yeah, it was weird.
But I like the idea of it.
Right? Yeah. Good idea, not great execution.
And even the payoff was okay. It just it just kind of felt like.
Like it's fine that it ended that way, but it was like their journey to get there. Yeah,
like it's like you see her do Tai Chi once, and then she just comes back for it later, at the end, and that's like kind of it.
Yeah, it's a weird. Yeah, like in that sense, it's a weird payoff too, because like that she's a martial artist, and that you kind of figure it's gonna come back in some way, but then the rest of the movie focused so much on like all the brothers and like their team
and getting like the team assembled.
Right. And then even in the last act with the last soccer game with the finale, like it's still so focused on just them pulling it together. That movie just comes like out of nowhere that you've kind of long forgotten about the fact that she even does Tai Chi. And they're like, oh, okay, here it comes, but it just like feels so left field.
The bald head though, you're just like, oh my
goodness,
you're
you're so shocked with all that.
Yeah.
And then she can't even like play. Yeah, so it's whatever. It is what it is. But I thought the first scene where like he finds her and like he starts singing to her is so odd. That is not how martial arts communicate with each other, by the way. We don't sing to each other. I have to find out.
So what do you do?
We just fight. We don't we don't come each other at song. And he like keeps eating the buns without paying. She's like, no, just pay.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I thought it was interesting, like her being like not confident in herself, and like her having all the acne and stuff, and all of that I thought was pretty interesting. Like her character, and like her being this like Tai Chi master, but like not confident in herself.
Right.
Yeah. And I feel like they could have done something more to kind of
put her in a spotlight.
Create more, or do more with that, because I do feel like they could have fleshed it out a little bit more so that the ending could have been more I mean, it's the payoff is good, but I think the getting there is kind of lacking, where I feel like there are little like moments where I can see him trying to like make that happen, where like her being with Singh and them kind of being together is like bringing her up in confidence. And then like, using that also with like her ability to do Tai Chi. But I feel like if maybe Singh could have helped her to, be more confident in doing Tai Chi as well.
Yeah.
Then maybe the ending could have felt more like, oh, okay, I see where that's coming from, right? Like, because it's like, oh, so Singh kind of helped her,
hone her abilities,
or like love Tai Chi more, or like, something like that, where like, or, go back to form and, understand Tai Chi and then, do that.
Yeah.
But I also felt like her like having like super clear skin at the end when she's bald was kind of weird too.
Oh yeah.
It's like what happened to all of that? You don't even give like any explanation. Like
she literally comes back after some sort of journey.
Yeah, like, and you're just like, okay,
all right.
So it just kind of felt like weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it was funny, but it's just like,
why?
It didn't really feel like there was like a clear continuity there. So
yeah, like because there's clearly something there that happens, in between her heartbreak and then coming back.
Right.
But we don't see it.
It's like, why does she even come back, right? If she's heartbroken.
Exactly.
It's kind of weird. Like, there's no like motive there that really sparks you, or like the logical kind of idea of like understanding why she comes back. Other than just for the heck of it.
Exactly. Because like, for us, I mean, we see that, he inquires about her or whatever, but she doesn't know that, so there is no reason for her to actually come back. So it was for the shoes. She came back to give him the shoes. That's what happened. The damn shoes, bro. Ugly shoes that get repaired like 4 times.
Shoes are important.
They come back with cleats on them. Oh man, it's all about the shoes. Yeah, but I mean, to your also point, I really did also like the choreography and like the action sequences. I think maybe my favorite scene was just kind of like the sport montage when they're playing the tournament before the finals, and it's like they're playing all those different teams, and like that's when you like kind of like you're really watching the team go ham. But like I really liked how I'm like really like seeing how the kung fu is being implemented into the soccer game, Yeah. And he's like using like all these kind of like it's like a real time like soccer footage, like very like what's that term? But just like long lenses and like very like wide shots, and you're following the team across field.
Yeah, I like those the most too. Like just the action that goes from one goalpost to the other goalpost, right?
Yeah.
Where like it's like one guy has the ball, he like kicks the ball over, and then it goes to a zoom, like you zoom into one dude, and then he also headbutts it to another guy, and he kicks it for the goal, like, and it all just like kind of works in one shot almost.
Exactly.
But it's smooth, and the choreography is good, and like everything looks so nice that
it feels like real time.
Yeah.
Like in a way, yeah. So that worked. I think like that worked really, really well. Yeah. And just like showcasing like, oh, this is like what it would actually look like if this was legit,
And like with the mixture of a lot of like the funny like close up shots of like an exaggerated shots of like the whole like whole team like all like standing in front of them, and then like them like running towards them and stuff like that. Like the dynamic of those two different things, I think really kind of moved it. And it felt really like good,
kind of cemented.
Yeah,
all that worked really well. I like the first game that they played with the other team, and they're like, these guys are like whatever, and they're like, what happened? When he just like does one kick straight into the goal, and he's like, it was a fluke, and he does it again. He's like, when he's like, you gotta play fair. Like, let us try. It's like when you're playing a video game with somebody that like they're super better at you.
And then like Hung gets the call. It's like 40-0.
Yeah, and he's like, what? Oh man, yeah, that was a good moment.
Yeah,
I think my favorite moment is with the two girls who were like dressed up in mustache
Oh,
on the soccer team.
yeah.
It's such a random like bit put in there, but it's hilarious. Like
they're actually good.
Yeah, but they're actually yeah. They're like the other like floaty. It's like, how are they doing that? It must be special effects.
Oh yeah.
It tries to break the
The
fourth wall.
special effects file was good too.
Yeah, that was great. That
Mm.
was cool.
Yeah.
Just because it was like oh, they had to sneak their way into like playing the game, so they dressed up as guys with like
With mustaches.
That was so good.
It's like so out of left field. It was that was a good one.
Yeah, just like little moments like that.
Yeah.
Those are kind of neat. But
And I like the like in terms of like the slapstick or like the actual like action comedy that was funny for me was like the moments where it's so like crazy outlandish, but they play it really straight.
mhm.
So for example, when Singh first encounters the team evil,
Yeah.
and he like starts like shooting all the shots at the goalie, right?
Mhm.
And then one time he like the goalie catches it, but like he's like holding
yeah.
onto the side of the goalpost,
Yeah.
and then he's just like, I got the ball. But it's like he plays so straight that it's just like so good.
It's
Like little moments like that, I feel like was like the best parts of the like the action comedy for me.
yeah. Team Evil was definitely evil. They all played it straight.
Yeah.
And then, it's like the classic like rival for rival thing. Like there's always like every member has a match to
Yeah.
like the other Shaolin people.
Yeah.
So that's always good. Yeah. Dude, that last sequence is so long though. It's like it's literally half an hour that last game. And I was like, I do feel that it kind of gets a little overplayed by then. Well, also like I just kept thinking like, how is this gonna continue go on? Because they lose like their first goalie. And it's
then
like,
they have a second goalie.
not even. They have like just enough members. They put like, didn't they put like a marquee of somebody on there?
No. It's like it's the dude who the stomach dude.
Yeah,
Who he was turned into goalie.
yeah. That was after the thing.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, he comes up and he's like the last person.
And then
like,
he
gives
calls
him-
his like
his
it's like I
wife or
love
daughter
you.
or somebody.
Yeah. It's like, this is my secret that I haven't told you for
Like
20
20
years.
I love you.
I was like, what?
Oh, yeah, I know. I thought it was gonna be something else.
Yeah.
I
What?
was like, well, you haven't told your kid you love him in 20 years? God dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he like takes the beating of his life.
Mm.
Yeah, and they're like, what are we gonna do now?
Some of the good special effects, in my opinion, were like the moments when, the Bruce Lee guy, the goalie, when he first starts getting like pummeled by Team Evil. And his hands, like his like shirt starts like,
It's like twisting.
dissipating and then like starts twisting. That was like pretty good like special effects.
Yeah.
Where he's like, and then like, it starts disappearing.
It's like his hand is bleeding. He tries to like mask it.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not hurt.
Yeah.
I got this.
But yeah, a lot of the Bruce Lee references were nice too.
Yeah. He like out of the blue, he just turns into like Bruce Lee out of
Yeah.
nowhere. Yeah. Or like in the last thing when Mui shows up and like she spins the ball like hella fast and then Singh like kicks it and it's just like blowing a tornado through the field and everybody strips naked that it comes into its
Yeah.
past.
The goalie at the end.
goalie. It's just like everything is taken out. Like I guess we're gonna count that as a goal. I actually really like the first like training match with like the team that played dirty that literally just like started beating up the soccer team when they're like losing and stuff and like out of nowhere he's like, it's our turn. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, they've got their powers, like feels it in the force or something.
Yeah.
And they're all like doing crazy poses and it's like freeze frame on everything. That was pretty cool too.
Yeah. I gotta say though, like the wire work in like Chinese movies, it's too
A1.
good, man. It's too good.
A1.
Yeah, like there's just so much good, like good action like that they do.
Yeah.
Like even like when they do the slow mo like kicks and stuff,
Mm.
and they're literally like kicking in the air. It's like
A lightweight vest.
Yeah,
It's like a float.
yeah, they're like floating in the air, and a lot of like the the almost breakdancing thing that they do.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
one of the guy who does the breakdancing stuff. It's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I really liked how, because like obviously they've CG like the soccer ball, but I loved how they did it for him because it's like, you know, he's doing a windmill, so like his legs are spinning and stuff. So it's like, how does that work? But it did a really good job of like bouncing the ball kind of like around his leg, like he's controlling it and passes it off. Yeah, that worked pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it did a really good job. Like it all really kind of worked.
Yeah.
In most cases. So, yeah, I think in places that it didn't work was like going back to that fight scene when he beats up the gang members with the soccer ball and he's like kicking it at the people instead of fighting them, and they like literally are flying around like bowling pins.
Oh yeah.
And they're just like they like turn into 2D and they're like,
oh yeah.
It's like, all right, we can that's a little whatever. So, but it's a fun movie.
It is.
It is fun.
It was definitely fun to watch.
What would you say about the replayability of it, though?
I mean, I wouldn't watch it over and over again. It's not my cup of tea in that way, but it's fun to watch like once in a while, I think, to come back to it.
Sure.
But
once every 5 years?
Yeah, once every like 10.
10?
Know,
Damn! Like double it.
That's like basically what I did. I haven't watched it since, when I watched it way back when, so.
Yeah. It's not the same.
Time flies, though. Dang.
Yeah. Even for like, I mean, I prefer Kung Fu Hustle over this. But even like for Kung Fu Hustle, it's not something that I return to like year after year, like even like every 2 or 3 years. Definitely kind of like a 5 to 10 year thing.
Yeah.
I also just kind of forgot about that movie a little bit. Yeah. So, but I do think it has more of a replayability than this movie.
But I do think there's like a lot to learn in terms of like filmmaking though in this movie though.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's very tight. It's very, like we said, kind of like broad and very, very appealing. So there's a lot to kind of.
The pace is actually pretty fast in this movie. It's like really, it like doesn't stop.
Doesn't drag.
Yeah.
Which is always a good thing.
It's good, but sometimes you do need a little bit of breathing room too, which I kind of felt like this movie needed.
Okay.
Like I felt like the pacing was a little too fast, and like, but it's also hard because it's a comedy movie.
Yeah, so you gotta kind of like.
It's not easy to like slow down a comedy movie without kind of making it feel like it's draggy or
right.
So I can't really fault.
You lose like the oomph of it.
Yeah. You lose the pacing. You lose the momentum of it. I think if you do that, but.
I see.
No. But, it's just
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Favorite brother?
The fat one.
Lightweight vest. Because of a disease or something is like
the stupid egg thing.
Oh my god, that was one that played out too much too. I was like,
what?
Come on, we're gonna do this again. Yeah, that was kind of dumb.
Well, come on.
He like threw it in the guy's mouth. He's like,
dude runs at him. Yeah.
I like how he kicks the ball. They kick the ball in the air. It is like flies, and they wait like an hour and a half for it to come down.
Yeah.
And they start beating up on the ball like it's the ball's fault.
Yeah.
Like, it's so wacky.
I like the character though, the fat guy character.
Fat guy?
Yeah. It's just some of the moments were weird like that. The egg thing, what?
I think I like the first brother, the Ironhead guy, the most. Just because like the scenes that he's in is so great. I mean, he's like the first one they get introduced, but like all the scenes with him in the club are like so funny.
Yeah.
And he's like, just leave me alone, man. Like, I'm trying to work and stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, do you even practice Ironhead anymore? He's like, I practice it every day. And his boss comes in and starts beating him
with a glass bottle.
And then he steals his idea, and he's like, you forgot to book a show for tomorrow night. He's like, oh, I have an idea. And he's like, what? He's like, we can use this.
And they're like horrible at singing.
Oh, my God. That was kind of funny. And so they started dancing, and it's like, all right, we're not. That's weird. He's like, no, be serious. So, yeah, all that was pretty good. Or, like, when he comes back, too, he's, like, trying to run away from him.
Yeah.
He's like, you ruined my life. Oh, that's pretty funny. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's fun. It's definitely not something that I would return to either too often. But I can't wait to actually talk about Kung Fu Hustle eventually.
Eventually, when is that?
Eventually. sometime in 2022, maybe not. But yeah. How about the talk about the series in general? Since this is it, what did you think of the comedy series?
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of the movies you watched focused on a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely there was a lot of comedy in it, but I felt like some of the movies weren't like focused on just comedy.
Right.
I think this movie was the most like comedic in the purest sense of the word.
Sure.
But I did enjoy. I think I enjoyed all of the movies.
They're all pretty good.
Yeah.
There's no flops for sure.
Yeah, I enjoyed all of them. Probably the weakest link would probably be the third one we watched.
Yeah.
My Love Story.
My Love Story.
Yeah. But Taste of Tea was great. Kung Fu Hustle was great. What was the first one we watched again?
20.
Yeah, 20 was great.
I would say 20 was probably the most comedy one.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is pretty.
Because, I mean, this is like slapstick comedy, so it feels like that. But I think there's enough of a genre mix. Whereas 20, I mean, sure, it's like coming of age drama, but I think it played more straight into like jokes, like joke comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like this one, and I think 20 would probably be the most comedic. But like Taste of Tea is definitely like comedic as well. I just felt like there's a lot of moments and things like in it that kind of lends itself to other things as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a great movie though. Like I just love the movie. It'd probably be my favorite movie out of all four.
Yeah,
in this series. And yeah, My Love Story was good too. Just it's
not the strongest.
It's probably not the one that you'd probably rewatch the most.
No.
Unless you really, really like that show or like that characters or whatever. But
yeah. Taste of Tea was definitely the best one.
I think 20 would probably be the most rewatchable actually.
Yes.
In terms of like pure comedy, like if I wanted to just watch something funny.
I've watched the movie many times already.
I haven't, but I definitely do think actually, I have watched it more than like twice, which is a lot. You know?
Yeah.
This is like my third time watching it. So
yeah, 20 holds up. Like it's a really funny movie,
especially when you forget some of like what happened in it. And
that's
then you
true.
Watch
that's
it
true.
again, you're like, oh right.
Like I forgot. Like really, I always seem to forget the.
See, you forgot already.
Yeah, I know. I already forgot of what I'm trying to remember. No, the romance with the tall friend with when he runs over the actress and becomes her manager. Like that whole bit, I always seem to kind of forget about.
You're like, oh, that exists.
Like I forgot. Like, oh, she's a character in this movie. I forget about that.
Yeah.
And like how they meet is like he runs over.
Yeah.
It's like, you should go get a number. When are you actually gonna go get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always seem to forget that part. But like, yeah, there's just so many. Like that movie moves so fast too, but in the way of like jokes wise, like there's so many joke after joke after joke. You can't. There's no way to like remember all of it.
We should do Extreme Job one day.
Too. Oh yeah.
That's a good one too.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
You prefer Extreme Job?
Yeah,
20?
I do. Yeah, I actually do.
I've only seen Extreme Job once.
That's more than enough times.
I mean, I guess
you can watch it again. I mean, it's a great movie. I think. Yeah.
Should we do a like a comparison? Should we do that and then the Chinese one?
Which one? Oh,
because it's based off of a Chinese one.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
If we ever get around to it, yeah, sure.
We should do that.
Yeah.
Because I actually watched that movie first.
Oh.
Yeah.
And which one did you like better?
That's why I have to rewatch it. It's been so because like I watched that and I was like, oh, this movie's actually like really good. And then I remember my dad talking about when like before Extreme Jack came out and like the trailers were coming. He's like, oh, this movie looks good. It's like about this chicken shop that comes out and like, but they're actually cops. Like they're staging this front whatever for the gang. And I was like, that sounds a lot like this one Chinese movie because instead of a chicken shop, they own a some kind of crawfish. They do like a crawfish shop across the street. And I was like, oh, it's actually based off that. And so when I saw it, I was like, but it had been so long since I seen the original to that. But
yeah, sure, we could do something like that.
It's pretty good.
We'll get around to it one day.
Ideas. But yeah.
We could do like Korean remakes of Chinese movies, or like vice versa.
Yeah,
because there's plenty of those stuff.
Japan, like all Asian countries just seem to rip off like each other.
Yeah, like secret. Like Korea is making a secret movie.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they started filming and stuff. So
like we just talked about, like I told you that Signal, right? So Signal is a K-drama, but Japan came out with a movie based off of it last year. That'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah,
that's a series versus a movie.
Yeah,
I'm so interested like how they confine that whole story.
I mean, it could work because they can just kind of do like one major crime
thing, yeah,
and then focusing more on like the time travel aspect and the two character development stuff.
I was like, right, so I was like, I don't even remember what like the overarching like crime was, but I guess it was to solve that guy's murder, right?
That's the big overarching one.
Yeah.
But what I liked about that, why are we even?
Why never that we like merged into a whole different show all of a sudden?
We'll talk about that next time.
That's off the air talk. You don't even know about that.
We went so away from our topic.
This is not comedy. Those are not comedy at all. It was like hard brooding, like mystery.
Next time, guys.
Mystery.
Maybe on our Patreon or something.
Yeah, that'd be a good Patreon. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, comedy series, there never wasn't any huge flops. Everything kind of worked. Taste of Tea was definitely the best. 20 would be second place, but has probably the most replayability. And then the other two,
I like Shaolin Soccer.
I put Shaolin over My Story for sure. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, pretty worked. But for next series, it's a good segue that we talked about martial arts and we watched something Kung Fu related, because we're about to go ham.
It almost seems as if we
like planned it out.
Yeah.
It almost seems like it was wrote in to the script. I wonder how that could be. Actually, it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It kind of wasn't.
Well, I mean, we knew we were gonna do it, but
the transition didn't really. Yeah. What's funny is because like this series and then the series we're doing next, if we put My Love Story last and did that, like it would have also transitioned nicely too. And I was like, interesting. But we're going ham in the Kung Fu space. We're not doing Bruce Lee. We're not doing Jackie Chan. But we are doing Jet Li.
Yes.
So we're going to do 4 films of Jet Li. Yeah. This was your idea, by the way, right?
I mean, Sean didn't want to do Jet Li, but I was like, dude, how can you? Jet Li.
Because I was
my childhood, man.
But over like Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan.
Come on, bro. Jet Li. And that's how this series came to be. And that's how this series came to be. But like I mentioned before, like Jet Li really was almost my childhood introduction to Kung Fu, and just that world, the Chinese Kung Fu world, and like I just really loved like all of his movies, really, and I like his shows too. There's a show that I used to watch because of my brother, actually. But
okay.
Yeah, just a lot of good memories watching it and just having a fun time. There's like a theme song for one of the shows that's like always stuck in my head.
Wow. Nerd.
But nerd, it's a martial arts movie, bro. Anyways, I really feel like Jet Li is not only a great, martial artist, action action hero type actor, but also like just a good actor in general. I think he really developed a lot throughout the years. I think even for Jackie Chan as well, actually. But their acting skills have also grown with their action, choreography and all of that. So it will be fun, I think, to see his movies, and I think it'll also be cool to kind of compare or contrast like the differences from what we the typical the bread and butter of Chinese kung fu movies such as Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and all of that, and see what are maybe like the subtle differences in their movies and
Yeah.
what they bring to the table. So
Yeah. I'm interested to say, like, I'm not super familiar with Jet Li at all, to be honest. So I'm really interested to see, like you said, his take and just kind of his flavor into the martial arts scene within movies, and as a martial arts star and being so prolific. Because there's just a lot of people out there and a lot of stars in this niche space. So it's interesting to see like how each one is different and like is separate from each other. You know what I mean? So I'm interested to see like how Jet Li is known to be Jet Li versus like Bruce Lee sticks or Jackie Chan sticks.
yeah, if there is a spectrum of action heroes, I would say Jackie Chan would be on one end of it.
Sure.
Where it's a lot of like
More
action, slapstick, using their environment and all that. I would put like Bruce Lee maybe in the middle.
Okay.
Where he still has a little bit of that, joke kind of funny moments almost.
Sure.
But also he's a lot more true to the martial arts like aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would put like Jet Li more on the other side of it.
Gotcha.
Where he's more serious in the martial arts aspect of it.
Right.
Than the comedic or almost, that kind of aspect of it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I would put the spectrum of that.
It's like on a spectrum of like
lighthearted
and
to serious.
Okay.
I would kind of put him on the more serious side.
Gotcha.
Where, Jackie Chan would be most on the lighthearted side, where Bruce Lee would kind of be in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. Agree. Okay.
Yeah.
So not a series for your kids.
I mean,
kids.
no. No, that's not what I meant. I mean, there's still
R18.
There's still like, I don't think you can exclude any comedic, bits out of like action.
Sure.
But
like on a
it depends on the movie is what I'm trying to say, really.
Yeah.
Or it depends on what we're watching. But definitely I think more so towards the the seriousness aspect of it.
Gotcha. All right.
I think especially the movies that we were watching. Which you
The
want to tell us which ones we were watching?
No. You just have to find out. That's not how this works. No, but yeah, so the four that we're gonna do, so the first is Fearless, came out in 2016, directed by Ronnie Yu. Second is Fist of a Legend, came out in 1994, directed by Gordon Chan. Third is Hero from 2004 by Yi Mao Zhang. And then last will be Once Upon a Time in China from 1992, directed by Tsui Hark, something like that.
Man, I'm actually excited to watch these again.
Trip down memory lane for you?
Yeah, like really a trip down memory lane. When Fearless first came out, I was like really excited to watch it. Because it was also when he was kind of getting older.
Okay.
Approaching a little older, Jet Li, because 2016, so it's been a while, but
yeah,
just to see him again, in that,
in that realm
was
Jet
exciting.
Li's coming back as Jet Li. Yeah. It's always an interesting trip to be like.
It's kind of like if you've seen Ip Man, it's kind of like that. And
okay. Yeah.
In its general like plot, but it's fun. And his older stuff is great too. Excited for you to see it too. So
should be cool. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I always like. I mean, martial arts films are just easy to get into, easy to enjoy.
Yeah.
So really eager for kind of this new experience. So yeah. So we'll see everybody next week for Fearless. And just a friendly reminder, we do have our Patreon. Come and support us. Come and support the channel. Come and watch some exclusivity that we will bring on there. Also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and if you're watching us on YouTube, hope you guys really like the video. Until next time, peace.
Bye.